Welcome to the Universal Truth Podcast. I'm Dr. Austin Davis, joined by
Jenifer Krause.
This is a podcast where we focus on speaking truth from the heart.
Feels good. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Universal Truth, where Dr. Austin and I are going to discuss today about pain.
Yeah, beginning of a 4-part series. We're going to keep it short and snappy. We'll touch on each part as the episode indicates.
What are we talking about today with pertaining to pain?
How pain enters the body. So the 4 parts: how pain enters the body, how it moves through the body, how it's stored, and how it's released.
Yeah, how it leaves the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'll be our 4-part series. This is part 1.
Part 1. Pain entering the body.
Pain entering the body.
Feels wonderful.
Probably for some people.
Oh, that's a whole other episode.
Well, no, it's this episode. It's pain entering the body. It's different.
That's like totally not where I thought we were going to go.
Where did you think we were going to go?
Well, my mind went somewhere else. Let's focus.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe this is a family show.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that generally we have an aversion to pain. Like we want to push it away and not let it in, and also think that it's a bad thing.
Right. I'd say that our society has become very pain averse in general. Absolutely.
Yeah. So pain entering the body, what kind of things come up for you?
Well, pain entering the body, the way, as a chiropractor, we analyze pain per se is usually a combination of physical, chemical, and emotional onset, or a combination of those. And each one can present very similarly, but at the same time, the way you would address that is going to be very different.
What can you give me an example of what chemically means? Because I haven't heard anything like.
Yeah, sure.
That.
So chemical interference that would create pain would be like, on the simple end, like terrible diet.
Oh, okay.
Hard drugs. That's things that you ingest or take.
Okay.
And then it leads to organ damage or muscle damage or tissue damage, but all the way up through chemical interference, which is sort of guided by the emotional pain, because the chemistry of the body can get thrown off through different traumas and experiences. So through your glandular system, then there would be a chemical presentation of pain.
Got it. So where do we go with that?
Well, pain is a funny thing because it, in large part, how it enters the body is very simple. Because if you look at it very clinically, when you touch something hot, when you fall off a ladder, when someone does something to you, basically nociceptors receive that signal, right? Like hot stove. That nociception then sends the signals to your brain, and your brain then responds. So what's interesting is the way pain enters can be very simple. It's like A to B.
Right.
What gets a little more complicated is how we perceive pain, because hot on skin has a reaction. Like, and I'm sure you will combat this, and I'm sure there's like other universes where it's different, but like red hot metal, soft, tender skin, there is a response, like a very clear response, right? Like a sizzling
Sure, and
response.
I do have a rebuttal to that.
Great. Right. To keep it straightforward,
Sure.
that that occurs
Mm-hmm.
and signals the brain. Now the brain responds with its helper cells and its nerve responses like take your fucking hand off the stove, right?
Right.
Because it's a survival mechanism. It's trying to keep you safe, separate from the pain response. It's just the initial movement response.
Mm-hmm.
But pain is a perception from the brain. So you then perceive it to be something or nothing. And this is where I believe that deep meditation and visualization and breath work and mindful trainings, you can change the way that you perceive pain to be something productive, to be non-existent. You can change it to be a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it enters the body, often for me, very simple. It's how we perceive it that makes it what it is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think for me, realizing and understanding that pain is, I like to say pain is just information.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be like attached to the pain, right? And not to create this usually a negative feedback loop of like, oh, I'm in pain, and then because then you're like creating more pain, and you're
Right.
in pain, and it's, oh, I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Which you're just gonna end up giving yourself more pain and
Mm-hmm.
feeling it and then attached to it. And any type of pain, right? That comes in mental, emotional, spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
physical, and it's an indication that there is something going on that our body wants to work out.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, there's productive pain.
yeah.
If you're getting stronger or growing or adapting, it's not always the most comfortable thing in the world. And yet it's absolutely essential. But if we're train ourselves and our offspring and those around us that all pain is negative, and our society is happy to acquiesce to, we've got a million things that will make sure you never feel pain, you're always comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, it's very easy to fall victim to the more I feel, the more dangerous it is type narrative. I mean, there's psychosomatic presentations where you think something is going on and you can create pain from that. So it really comes down to perception, ultimately.
Yeah. How do you perceive? Well, my mind goes to like a car accident or something where these things happen,
Right.
and then obviously there's pain, and we can perceive it as a negative thing. And what I am taught and also teach others, and what I've learned through experience, is that pain exists for a reason. It exists so we can learn from it and expand from it. And I think things that happen as quote unquote accidents, right? I don't believe there are such things. I believe that the universe, multiverse, has this divine plan, right? With cause and effect, where we might not be able to see the cause, but we have this effect, and that we are then given the opportunity through pain to learn lessons and grow from that experience. Not really sure where I was going with that, except
Yeah, me neither. Because it's also like if the point is learning a lesson,
yeah,
why put someone in a car accident?
well, I mean, I could really go down that.
Sure, because I feel like there's a lot of other ways to learn lessons. If the universe is like, fuck that guy, car accident time, he needs to learn something.
Yeah, I have an example of a client that I had years ago. So she had been in 3 car accidents, pretty close together.
Right.
And the first one happened after I had seen her. And looking backwards, because I worked with her over the span of a couple of years, looking backwards, she had to have enough like time to understand what was going on to be able to see the lesson in it. But she was literally going the wrong direction in her life.
What kind of car accident was she driving the wrong way down a one-way?
No, just not paying attention to herself.
Gotcha.
And
that was the first one.
Actually, well, no, if I remember correctly, at least 2 out of the 3 people hit her from behind or from the side. So she wasn't the one that caused the accident, but it happened, to her. And as a result of, having things happen to your car, you have to go through these other things, right? And eventually the third one, she was like, what the fuck is going on? Right. And then totally changed her whole life around. She moved to a different state. She went back to school, and and now she's like thriving.
Beautiful.
Where before it was like she was in this like circle of trying to be in the same type of relationship. She wasn't really growing or learning anything for herself.
Yeah.
And it took that in order for her to realize, like, I need to literally drive and move to another state.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, to break that cycle in that scenario, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You said something earlier. You said everything in the universe, multiverse?
/ multiverse.
Multiverse has
not just one.
A purpose, right? Is meant to happen. Mm-hmm. How do you explain, like, major disaster, like children's hunger, the Holocaust?
I have philosophy around all of those things.
Yeah, because I believe that was a lot of pain entering the body for a lot of people.
Yeah, and this is a lot of work that I've done privately with people that, are on the same kind of like wavelength as me, because it can be a little disturbing, if you have different like ways of thinking. First of all, I take things from the root of like pure energy. Yeah. So I remove all emotional things. Of course, the Holocaust, for an example.
So emotion has no importance.
I mean, in the way that I'm talking about things.
Gotcha.
Because if I didn't remove my emotional attachments to people getting hurt, I would not be able to see the beauty in the divine plan of the entire existence of humanity.
Okay.
Does that make sense? No.
So the divine beauty of like a 6-year-old getting raped by her uncle.
Okay. That's happened to me. I was 5, right, and it was my next door neighbor, and it was repeatedly. And yes, there is a divine, beautiful plan in that. Again, taking the emotional components out of it, but understanding the bigger picture, that in past lives, I have also done that to people, and also been on receiving ends of negative things, right, in order to experience the extremes, the polarities in the universe, in order to what I believe now, this like time that we're living in is ultimately to bring back balance in our world, is to bring the balance, to remove polarity. So eventually not having those things. But we have those things, in my opinion, because we have been so fragmented from the Creator that we've become, and I can go into like what I believe about the chakra system of like we have so many chakras because it's another fragmentation, where we have these polarities to, on a bigger scale, if you're like looking outside of being human and seeing like, oh, all of those people over here, like they all died from some horrific event in order to be reincarnated and hopefully coming back together into a less fragmented life when they're reincarnated, because in my opinion they have asked for it, and on a soul level,
Right.
that they've asked for that pain, so that when they are reincarnated and come back, they have compassion, hopefully, right? Yeah. They have compassion and understanding because they've had been on this other side of it.
Right.
And I believe that we have the people living on a 3D existence have had multiple lives and experiences of living in both polarities. And what we end up experiencing in life is like we're trying to grow from all of these lessons so that eventually on a soul level we become less fragmented and there's less population and less chaos in the world. So then we come back into light. And to talk about pain, we needed to fragment into pain and chaos in order to come back up from that and get back to source or light.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So then how do you help people in this life that if I'm understanding it right, is maybe they're in a fragmented existence, deal with that in this life, knowing that short of ending their own life, they're going to stay in this fragmented existence in this lifetime before the rebirth to a more complete being.
What's the question?
Ways that people can process knowing that they might be in a fragmented state.
Yeah, well, think about ways they can process. Wow.
If the narrative is just, hey, look, I know this really sucks for you, but you're just in a fragmented state. At some point, you'll be whole. No worries. Like, I feel like a lot of people would have challenges with just being like, oh, that's all it is? Pfft, awesome. Glad you mentioned it. I'll just be over here. Like, what are ways that they can face that, understand it, normalize it for themselves so that they can, get to that next level?
Well, I believe that, I mean, if you even take any bad experience that you've had, right, where you have had pain, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever sort of pain that you've had, and what has happened as a result of that. Like, we can even break it down to something super simple. Like, you walk upstairs and you fall and you scuff your knee. Like, what was the lesson? Oh, I was going up the stairs too quickly. I wasn't, my shoes were untied.
Right.
So on the other side of that is you learn something, so you grow.
Right.
And we always want to be the best version, ideally, of ourselves, right? We want to try to show up in a positive, uplifting way, right? And sometimes pain has to happen so we can see the light in that. And I know it's a hard one, and I understand. There's a lot of people that ask me, like, what about all the kids that are being born with cancer,
right,
and that stuff? And I've gone into that. I've dipped into that a lot, and it is a very unfortunate thing, and also the same thing that I believe that some children, when we repeat what we don't resolve in this lifetime and other lifetimes. So the reason I believe that these things are getting worse and worse is because they're not doing the work. They're not like trying, and they're just repeating this cycle, like we've talked about, of death and rebirth.
That is born with cancer?
Well, some of them have been born that way to experience, like I said, the opposite, right, of like being the victim, and put in a family that has to learn. Sometimes the family needs to learn compassion and unconditional love, right? So there's that component, and there's also another component of the compounded of pain and suffering and trauma that hasn't been resolved in past lifetimes.
So this all makes sense.
Generational.
Yeah, this all makes sense with the caveat that you're able to remove emotion from the equation.
Yes. Of course.
Right. Emotion exists.
It
It's
does.
very real for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, is there a way to look at it through a lens that includes emotion? Or does emotion just cloud it to the point of it will never make sense if you look at it emotionally?
Um, that's a hard one. I would say for me, I am lucky that I didn't experience that. I mean, I have had experiences when, I mean, having a kid that is ill, like, I don't think there's anything worse
Right.
that I can experience. That is more pain than my own, like myself being in pain, right? Because there's a love there that transcends everything. And when I was in that experience of having my child having issues, um, I was, why me? Why me? And it created this huge victim state. And eventually it got worse and worse until the point where I was like, oh, this is a gift. And as soon as I changed my mindset around not being in pain and suffering anymore and being like, this child is a gift to me, it almost automatically changed just because of that.
Right.
Like, he changed. He started getting better, and the things around us started getting better almost immediately, to the point where I know that my mindset around pain and suffering was the thing that kept us there.
Yeah. So embrace emotion, but reshape the perspective of it.
Well, it's interesting, right, with pain. I think that, and the work I do mostly is emotional pain that has been stuck. And emotional pain that gets stuck is, in my opinion, is probably, well, it's the most common thing that I've seen in every single person. And it gets compounded so much that it creates the physical pain. And I think at the root of all of it is emotions. Not that we need to eliminate emotions, because that's part of like how we're empathetic. Like, I can feel when you're like sad or when you're happy, and we can, we all feel those from other people. So I don't think we should eliminate it. But I do think that there's a way to let in the emotional components to things and ask, why am I experiencing this? And what am I meant to learn from this experience?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, it's easy, like, you walk upstairs and you scuff your knee and you're like, oh, and then usually it's something so simple, but then someone might feel shame because maybe someone they liked saw them fall up the stairs, and then there's shame stuck in their knee, and they have issues walking forward with their knee. And it's an interesting thing. So really, I think physical pain is almost not the actual issue.
We're starting to delve into the next few episodes of how pain is stored in the body and how it moves through the body.
Yeah.
We need to keep it to how pain
enters the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, so physical pain, obviously,
pretty direct.
Pretty direct.
Chemical can be, and they can be also very indirect.
Yeah.
If it's related to something like emotion.
I feel like mental pain is really connected to all the things, right? Because we have a physical thing that happens and then we're thinking about it. We have an emotional thing that happens, we are thinking about it. Chemical thing, all those things. We're like, we have this brain that loves to do things and think. So we have that mental part about all of the things, right?
Right. And I mean, if it's all perception anyway, it all boils down to mental, even emotional
Yeah.
or spiritual, because we have to process it in some way, and we process it through this big bowl of jello. So thankfully we have some input on that. But it all boils down, I think, to just mental perception.
Yeah. How do you perceive? So how do you perceive, um, well, you already said how you can change perception, right? Like meditation. I had an intense painful thing happen to me, and I had a hypnotherapist help me with that, and it worked. Like he was able to help me, stop the pain, stop me from feeling the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with those things is that it's temporary.
Right.
Because it didn't get to the root of it. And there's times where you need to allow space for the pain, where you can let it in so that it can process and then release.
Right.
Instead of, I was trying to push it away because it was so painful. I was like, get rid of this, please.
Yeah.
Nothing's working.
Otherwise,
all temporary things.
Speaking of pain, I'm supposed to get adjusted in a few minutes.
Speaking of pain.
Gotta make sure I didn't see. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
Oh my gosh, we're in the middle of recording.
Well, I want to make sure the pain doesn't enter my body. That's going to. I mean, I think the perception of pain it also comes down to just a willingness to let yourself be in pain, and the consistency that comes with practice, where something might be uncomfortable the first time, second time, fifth time, 12th, and the brain's sort of like, you don't need to keep doing this to yourself. But this is also why I don't believe wholeheartedly in listening to the brain very much.
Yeah.
It goes a lot farther beyond that, because brain is survival mechanism, and it's like if you keep doing something that hurts or is uncomfortable or challenging, the brain's going to eventually just go, don't do this anymore. This is not right. So I think it's following your heart, and if you know that your intentions are right, and if you know that it's going to get you to the next level or to a better place or become or have more capacity to do better things, that's more of a heart-led model than a brain-led model.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just people stay in their educated minds and listen to their brain too much in regards to pain management, pain acceptance, pain perception. So
that brings me to another thing. Do you have time to talk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the things that I like saying about, getting adjusted is like, don't come, and I'm sure you probably say this to people, don't come when you're in pain. I mean, yes, right. Come when you're in pain, yes.
Yeah.
However, if you have a routine, right, you actually process things way easier, way quicker, so then that thing that causes pain doesn't affect you nearly as much as it would have if you had not had any self-care at all. Right. Same thing with meditation and all the other things. Like, you have a routine of some sort of practice or practices where when pain does come, it's that much easier and quicker to work through the body than having nothing prior, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, my whole world just fell apart.
Right. I mean, the system is designed to communicate and adapt, and if that's interfered with, so in my world, if there's subluxation present and that system's interfered with, it's not communicating, it's not adapting, then even small, kind of insignificant pains become very major, because the body's not able to adapt, it's not able to communicate, hey, this is minor, you're all good, nothing really to see here. But it is such a shock to the system, because for the most part, our societies are babies their systems to the point of being more of a liability than an asset. Then that's a major problem. So a lot of my work is through helping the body be at its most communicative and most adaptive, So it can process that you stubbing your toe is not the end of the world,
Mhm.
or you getting dumped is not really going to kill you, or anything like that, short of actual like emergency trauma care.
Right.
You're good. You'll make it through. Your body will adapt. Your brain will adapt. Um, so that's more of like pain that's sort of put on you. And then hopefully with a clear connected system, better communication, adaptation, there's less of you putting pain on yourself,
Yeah.
which is something that usually occurs, in my opinion, as a cry for help from a disconnected system. People that are out there starting fights, robbing people, doing nefarious things, to me is a cry for help. Its body's going, I'm in pain, and I'm
Mhm.
going to put you through pain until someone stops you. And then hopefully that person who stops you is going to go, wow, you're really going through it. Let me help you.
Yeah.
We just have a system created that it of incarceration and medication stuff that it does no effort to really help people.
Yeah.
It just keeps people stuck in these ruts, and they become a product of a system that isn't designed to truly help people's expression of life.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and it does bring it back full circle to pain being like how we perceive it, right? All those people that hurt people really are just in pain, and it's unresolved pain, and then it's masked by various things. It doesn't actually help anyone at all, not themselves. It doesn't help society by putting them in jail or like giving them pills. Um, and yeah, so how can we help people understand that pain is simple, it's information, and it's our perception of it?
Well, we're doing that right now by talking about it. And yeah, it's working hopefully from within the system. I think creating an entirely new system
Yeah.
would be challenging considering how established this one is. So it's being the example that you want to share with the world. And then it really is just through education. It's like in my office, I see one patient at a time. I try to educate each person because they have contact with however many people. But
Right.
these days too, with things like social media and how easy it is to get information out there, but I mean, a lot of that information is controlled and filtered, and you don't get a real sense of what's going on. So
Yeah.
it starts with changing it within yourself and then changing it with others.
Yeah. Good.
Time out.
And we're
Getting adjusted. I'll be
speaking
right
of
back.
speaking of pain.
As we were saying, knowing that all pain is a mental perception, that our educated mind can be easily influenced and led in many directions,
Yes.
pain entering the body should be a heart-led experience that, if we can follow the storyline of what the universe or universes
Mm-hmm.
are teaching us,
Yes.
then processing that pain as it enters becomes very productive. And the more we allow ourselves to experience pain and discomfort, allows us a better understanding of what it is, why it's happening, what it's leading towards, and how to process it so that smaller things, less important things, get filtered easier.
Mm-hmm.
They don't become part of our narrative, our victimhood of who we are. And that the bigger things that are not as easy to just sort of slough off become, I like to call them projects. They start to become a project for you to work on and learn from and understand.
Oh, you're so funny.
So the more that we can tackle these projects heart on, not head on,
Yes.
the stronger we become and the better we're able to reorganize to be a more complete being.
For sure. I do believe that there is a space and time where pain and suffering does not exist at all, period. Because someone asked me, like, they hurt themselves. And I was like, well, eventually, like, you won't have to deal with that anymore.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I remember I had lots of, I'm totally diverting and talking more. So this is supposed to be our outro.
No, it's fine. Take it wherever you want to take it.
No, I was just gonna say that I've had lots of pain growing up, and eventually, like now, besides the current experience I'm having, project that I'm working on, it doesn't exist that much anymore. It's almost non-existent. And I do believe that there is a point in space and time where no one anywhere has any pain or suffers at all. And whatever reincarnation that is for people, or whatever level of vibration, or whatever mental state frequency that is, it does exist.
We're gonna pin that, but it brings up a very wild concept.
Yeah.
For me.
Like what?
Okay, we can unpin
it. Pin, unpin.
Because I'm still learning a lot about this framework you're talking about.
Yeah.
Multiverses and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's a place that exists where there's no one experiences pain, discomfort, anything.
Yeah.
Is that to say that everyone at some point gets to that place, or in this place that we're in right now, there are some people in that place, some people in the opposite place where everything is pain and misery and suffering, some people in between,
right,
existing on the same plane. And if it's these big cycles that we're all hitting the same plane at the same time.
Yeah.
So I can be in a place in my life where pain, suffering, all this doesn't exist in a productive way, but interacting with someone who's only in pain and suffering and completely miserable. And it's not that we all at some point all level up to this next thing, to the next thing, the next thing. Some people are there.
Yeah,
I think both. Aren't.
Yeah, I think both. I think that, yes, that exists, where everyone is at that vibration that exists.
Everyone. All energy is at that vibration.
Yes, I do believe that is a timeline that is achievable.
Okay. Why go through the process?
Yes.
If energy is this dynamic and intelligent, why not just go like Men in Black mind eraser and go boop? Nobody remembers shit. I'm just leveling up everybody. We're just all in that place now. Like, why go through the fracture, pain, suffering to get to this place where there's none of that?
To go back to the beginning again? Like, why are we experiencing anything?
Like, why even have levels? Like, why not just be created at that vibration?
We were created at that vibration.
So, okay. So we were created that vibration. And what has led to us no longer being at that vibration?
Fragmentation.
What causes fragmentation?
Well, just the descent from the light is you can call it like a blip, or like some people might call it like the Big Bang, or some people can call it, depends on what they.
So our creation was our undoing.
Yeah, we're like we unraveled from the light in order to experience all things, to go back into the light.
So we unraveled to experience all things, or we unraveled and now we're forced to experience all things? Because if we were there, like, why go back and be like, well, let's just see all the shitty stuff that happened that got us here.
Why from the beginning?
Yeah, so we unraveled and now we're forced to go through this.
We were one, right? We were the creator. All of us were the creator.
Right.
And then we fragmented into a positive and negative.
To create balance.
Polarity, right?
So in this,
and then
utopia,
we just kept fragmenting.
But in this utopia of positive, no pain, no suffering, where's the balance?
The balance is that we are just pure light.
That's not balance.
And love.
That's the one side.
Yeah, how is that not?
But what's the balance?
Polarity doesn't exist anymore.
So there's no balance?
The balance is that everything is one.
For everything to be one, there has to be.
But that's balance.
we're going to pin that there because I want to look deeper into this before I continue down this road because I
Yeah.
want to understand this better. From my side of things.
Yeah. I have lots of resources I can send you.
So the oneness is balance. We're going to get into that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Okay, we're totally diverting. Okay.
Pinning it for another conversation, but it's a very interesting topic.
Okay.
Any final phrase, word, or sentence you want to leave people with in terms of pain entering the body?
Yeah, pain entering the body is productive in a sense that we are meant to experience pain for a reason, and and it's up to us to figure that out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Universal Truth. This is Jenifer. I'm Dr. Krause and Davis.
Thanks for watching, and
tune in next week for pain moving through the body.
Yeah. Nice.